In this video, we're going to talk about where the clinical evaluation sits within your overall technical file and how to utilise other components of your technical file to build a thorough and robust clinical evaluation. So the first thing to consider is your device's intended purpose. One of the general safety and performance requirements outlines the fact that you need to demonstrate suitability for your device's intended purpose. And so what you define your intended purpose to be determines the clinical evidence that you need to utilise to support suitability for intended purpose, and it will also determine the kind of clinical evidence you need to go looking for in your state-of-the-art literature review to generate appropriate safety and performance objectives from evidence related to similar devices to yours. Then we have the general safety and performance requirements. There are 23 GSPRs in the EU MDR. Not all of those need clinical evidence to support conformity, but it's useful to identify for yourself which of those do early on. They help structure your clinical evaluation and make sure that you systematically tick them off and leave no stone unturned. Then we have preclinical testing, often referred to as benchtop testing. The clinical evaluation is a great place to outline all the preclinical testing that you've performed on your device that supports your device's performance and safety profile. When we think about preclinical tests that support performance, we're often thinking of things like verification and validation testing. When it comes to safety, the preclinical testing that you might use will be quite variable depending on your own device, but might include things like biocompatibility or electromagnetic compatibility testing, for example. Then we have your risk management file. And when we're thinking about inputs to the clinical evaluation, we're really looking at your risk management plan. The risk management plan is going to define exactly how you're going to assess the risks that you find in your clinical evaluation, how you're going to determine their severity and their probability, and how you're going to assess the overall residual risk of your device based on the outputs of the clinical evaluation. And then lastly, we have your PMS or post-market surveillance activities. Really, when we're thinking about PMS feeding into clinical evaluation, we're looking at legacy devices or on-market devices. Your latest PMS report or periodic safety update report should contain really useful information that you can use to demonstrate the safety and performance of your device and demonstrate that your device has a favourable benefit risk profile. So things like complaints data or usability surveys, for example. It's not absolutely essential, though, that your device is a legacy device to use this information. A pre-market device where you might have already collected user feedback, complaints, etc., and you can use those really well in your clinical evaluation. The outputs of the clinical evaluation also feed back into certain components of your technical file, specifically your risk management file. So it's absolutely essential that any risks you identify through clinical evaluation, whether previously known or brand new, are assessed appropriately in your clinical evaluation and then fed in to your risk management and file going forward. So your hazards analyses and your future risk management reports need to use this information and address them appropriately. And then the clinical evaluation will also feed into your post-market surveillance. So any areas of ambiguity at all in your clinical evaluation don't have to be disasters. You can use your post-market surveillance activities, post-market clinical follow-up or vigilance searches, for example, to address those and show that you're continuing to assess your device's performance and safety profile well after your current clinical evaluation. So hopefully that's made things clear in terms of where the clinical evaluation sits in your technical file and how to use the other components to build your clinical evaluation.